The chapel doors swing open. Empty. No groom, no apology, just 200 guests staring at Alina Whitford like she's already dead. The whispers start before the organist even stops playing. She should run. She should cry. She should crumble. Instead, she lifts her chin, gathers her skirts, and walks the entire length of that aisle alone. Not in retreat, but like she's claiming something no one else can see. That was 4 years ago. What came after was worse. This is the story of a woman who refused to be buried by shame, who rebuilt herself in a world designed to keep her broken, and who discovered that the hardest thing isn't surviving betrayal, it's daring to trust again. If you want to see how far resilience can take someone when everything's stacked against them, stay until the end. Drop a comment with your city. I want to know how far this story travels. The morning of the wedding, Alina woke to the sound of rain. Not the soft kind. The hard, accusatory kind that rattled the windows of Whitford Manor and turned the gardens into gray soup. She lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, and thought, this is a sign. Then she thought, no, that's superstitious nonsense. Then she thought, but what if it's not? Her mother knocked once and entered without waiting for a response. You're awake. Good. We're already behind schedule. Margaret Whitford moved like a general preparing for battle. Brisk, efficient, emotionally absent. She pulled back the curtains with one sharp motion, flooding the room with cold light. The hairdresser's here. Your sister's already dressed. And for heaven's sake, eat something. You look pale. Alina sat up slowly. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're getting married in 4 hours and you look like you're about to faint. Her mother's eyes swept over her with clinical assessment. This is the most important day of your life, Alina. Everything we've worked for comes down to this. There it was. The weight of it. Not your happiness, not your future. Everything we've worked for. Alina didn't argue. She never did. She let them dress her, let them pin her hair into something elaborate and uncomfortable. Let them lace her into a gown that cost more than most families earned in a year. She stood in front of the mirror and barely recognized herself. Beautiful, her mother said, but it sounded like she was evaluating livestock. Her younger sister, Clara, hovered near the door, biting her lip. Alina? What? Are you happy? Margaret shot Clara a look that could strip paint. What kind of question is that? She's marrying Edmund Travers. Of course she's happy. Now go make sure the flowers are arranged properly. Clara left. Alina watched her go and felt something twist in her chest. Am I happy? She didn't know. She hadn't let herself ask. Edmund Travers was handsome in the way that mattered to people who valued appearances. Tall, well-dressed, from a family with money and a title that didn't embarrass anyone at dinner parties. He'd courted Alina with the kind of attention that felt overwhelming at first. Flowers, letters, long walks where he talked about their future in broad, impressive strokes. She'd liked him, or thought she did, or convinced herself she did because everyone else seemed so certain it was the right match. Her father had died 2 years earlier, leaving debts no one talked about openly, but everyone knew existed. The Whitford name still carried weight, but weight without money was just pressure. Margaret had made it clear. Alina's marriage wasn't just personal, it was structural. It held things up. So when Edmund proposed, Alina said yes. And when doubts crept in late at night, she crushed them. Because what was the alternative? What? The chapel was 15 minutes outside town, old stone and stained glass. The kind of place that looked like it had witnessed 1,000 weddings and would witness 1,000 more. By the time Alina's carriage arrived, guests were already filling the pews. Neighbors, business associates, distant relatives who only appeared when something important was happening. Margaret fussed with Alina's veil. Remember, smile, but not too much. Stand straight, don't fidget. I won't. And when you say your vows, speak clearly. No one wants to strain to hear you. I know. Her mother paused, studying her face. For a moment, something almost soft flickered in her expression. You'll be fine, Alina. This is what you were raised for. It wasn't reassuring. The wedding coordinator appeared, looking flustered. Mrs. Whitford, we're ready to begin whenever... Is Edmund here? The coordinator hesitated. I believe he's in the vestry. You believe? I'll check. She hurried off. Margaret frowned. Honestly, it's like no one takes these things seriously anymore. Alina's hands were cold. She pressed them together, trying to warm them. Through the chapel doors, she could hear the murmur of voices, the shuffle of feet, the soft notes of the organ beginning its prelude. Minutes passed. The coordinator returned, moving faster this time, her face tight with something Alina couldn't identify. She leaned close to Margaret and whispered something. Margaret's expression didn't change, but her posture did. She went very still. "What?" Alina asked. "Nothing. Just a delay." "What kind of delay?" "It doesn't matter. We'll sort it out." But her mother's voice had an edge now, and Alina felt the first cold finger of real fear slide down her spine. "Where's Edmund?" "I said we'll sort it out. Where is he?" Margaret exhaled sharply. "He's not in the vestry." "Then where?" "We don't know." The world tilted. Alina stared at her mother, waiting for the punchline, the explanation, the part where this made sense. It didn't come. "What do you mean you don't know? He was supposed to arrive an hour ago. No one's seen him." "Did someone go to his house?" "Of course someone went to his house. He's not there. His valet says he left this morning and didn't say where he was going." Alina's breath came shorter. "So he's late?" Margaret didn't answer. "He's just late. He'll be here." Still nothing. "Mother, he'll be here." Margaret looked at her daughter with something that might have been pity if she'd allowed herself to feel it. "Alina, no." Alina stepped back. "No. He's coming. He's just stuck in traffic, or there's no traffic between here and the estate." "Then something else, an accident, a misunderstanding." "Alina, he wouldn't do this." "Clearly he would." The words landed like a slap. Alina stood there, veil trembling slightly in the draft from the open door, and felt the ground dissolve beneath her. "We need to tell the guests," Margaret said quietly. "No. We can't leave them sitting there. We're not telling them anything, not yet. He's coming." "Alina, I said he's coming." Her voice cracked on the last word, too loud, too desperate. The coordinator looked away. Clara, who'd appeared sometime during the exchange, pressed a hand to her mouth. Margaret's jaw tightened. "Wait here." She swept toward the chapel entrance, and Alina knew what she was going to do. She was going to go inside and make an announcement. She was going to stand in front of 200 people and tell them the wedding was off because the groom had vanished. Alina couldn't let that happen. She moved without thinking, pushing past her mother through the doors and into the chapel itself. The organ was still playing. Guests turned as she entered, smiling, expectant. The minister looked up from his book, and Alina walked. She walked down the aisle in her white gown, bouquet clutched in shaking hands, head high because if she lowered it even an inch, she'd fall apart. Whispers started immediately. "Where's the groom? Is he already at the altar? I don't see him. Why is she alone?" Halfway down, Alina felt her mother's hand on her arm, pulling her back. "What are you doing?" Alina shook her off, kept walking. She reached the altar. The minister stared at her, confused. "Miss Whitford, we can't begin without—" "I know. Then perhaps we should— just give me a minute." She stood there, facing the empty space where Edmund should have been, and the chapel went very, very quiet. Someone coughed. A child whimpered and was hushed. The organ player, uncertain, let the music die. Alina waited. 1 minute became 2, 2 became 5, and Edmund didn't come. The whispers grew louder now, no longer polite. "He's not here." "Did he leave her? At the altar?" "My God!" Alina's vision blurred. Her chest felt like it was caving in, but she didn't move. Margaret appeared beside her, voice low and furious. "That's enough. We're leaving." "No." "Alina, this is humiliating." "I know." "Then stop making it worse. I'm not leaving." "Everyone's staring. Let them stare." She didn't know where the words came from, didn't know what she thought she was proving, but something in her refused to run, refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing her crumble. So she stood there, alone, in front of everyone. And when she finally turned to leave, not fleeing but walking, slowly, deliberately, she looked every single person in the eye. Some looked away. Some looked pitying. Some looked hungry, like they'd just witnessed something they couldn't wait to retell. She walked the length of that aisle again, and this time the silence was different. This time, it wasn't anticipation, it was condemnation. The carriage ride home was airless. Margaret sat across from Alina, jaw set, staring out the window. Clara sat beside Alina, holding her hand, saying nothing because what was there to say? When they reached the manor, Alina went straight to her room and locked the door. She stood in the center of the floor, still in her gown, and tried to make sense of what had just happened. He'd left her. Edmund Travers, the man who'd promised her a future, who'd kissed her hand and called her beautiful and talked about the life they'd build. He'd vanished. No warning, no explanation, just gone. She should cry. She knew she should, but the tears wouldn't come. Instead, there was just a cold, spreading numbness. A knock at the door. "Alina?" Claire's voice, small and worried. "Go away. Please." "I said go away." Silence. Then footsteps retreating. Alina sank onto the edge of the bed, gown pooling around her like a collapsed parachute. Why? That was the question that wouldn't stop circling. Why did he do this? What did I do wrong? Was I not enough? She replayed every conversation, every moment, searching for the clue she'd missed, the sign that this was coming. But there was nothing. Or maybe there was everything, and she'd just been too naive to see it. Hours passed. The sun set. The house went quiet. And Alina sat there, alone, in a wedding dress she'd never needed. The next morning, the letter arrived. It was delivered by a boy who wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. Margaret opened it, read it, and went pale. She found Alina in the library, staring at nothing. "There's a letter." Alina didn't look up. "From him?" "Yes." "What does it say?" Margaret hesitated, then handed it over. Alina unfolded it with numb fingers. "Alina, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean much now, but it's true. I can't marry you. I thought I could, but I can't. There's someone else. There has been for months. I tried to end it. I thought I could do the right thing, but I can't live a lie, and you deserve better than that. I'm sorry for the pain this will cause. I'm sorry for the scandal. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to tell you in person. I hope someday you'll understand. Edmund." Alina read it twice, then a third time. The words didn't change. There's someone else. There has been for months. She looked up at her mother. He was cheating. Margaret's face was stone. Yes. While he was courting me, while he was proposing, while we were planning the wedding. Yes. And he never told me. Apparently not. Alina laughed. It was a sharp, broken sound. He thought he was doing me a favor by not living a lie. Alina, he humiliated me in front of everyone, and he thinks he was being noble. Margaret sat down slowly. "What do you want to do?" "What do you mean? Do you want to respond? Do you want to—" "No." Alina folded the letter and set it aside. "I don't want anything from him. People will talk. Let them. They'll blame you. I know. They'll say you drove him away, that you weren't good enough, that there was something wrong with you." Alina met her mother's eyes. "I know." Margaret studied her for a long moment. "You're stronger than I thought." It wasn't a compliment. It was an observation. Alina didn't respond. The weeks that followed were brutal. The story spread fast. Abandoned bride, cheating groom, secret affair. Newspapers picked it up. Society columns dissected every detail. Invitations stopped coming. Friends became distant. Even servants whispered when they thought she wasn't listening. Alina stopped going out, stopped accepting visitors, stopped pretending she was fine. She spent her days in the library or the gardens, moving through the manor like a ghost. Clara tried to help. "You should come to the market with me. Get some air." "No." "People will forget eventually." "No, they won't." "Alina, I don't want to talk about it." Margaret, for her part, focused on damage control. She met with lawyers, settled debts, tried to salvage what was left of the family's reputation. But the damage was done. And Alina knew it. One night, she found herself standing in front of the mirror in her room, staring at her reflection. She looked different, thinner, harder, like something inside her had been scooped out and replaced with stone. This is what shame looks like, she thought. But beneath the shame was something else, something colder, anger. Not the hot, explosive kind, the slow, simmering kind, the kind that builds over time and doesn't go away. She'd been humiliated, betrayed, cast aside like she didn't matter, and everyone expected her to just disappear, to fade into obscurity. To accept that this was her story now, the abandoned bride, she stared at her reflection. And she made a decision. No, she wasn't going to disappear. She wasn't going to let this break her. If the world wanted to see her as weak, she'd prove them wrong. If they wanted to pity her, she'd give them nothing to pity. If they thought she was finished, she'd show them what finished really looked like. Geet. 6 months later, Alina Whitford was unrecognizable. Not in appearance, though she'd cut her hair shorter, dressed more severely, but in presence. She no longer hid. She no longer apologized. She took over management of the estate, learning everything her father should have taught her, but hadn't. She met with bankers, renegotiated debts, fired incompetent staff, and hired better ones. She worked 12-hour days, studied ledgers at night, memorized every contract, every agreement, every detail. When people whispered, she ignored them. When they pitied her, she outstared them. When they underestimated her, she outworked them. And slowly, painfully, she began to rebuild. Not her reputation, that was gone, but something more important, her sense of self. It was a year and a half after the wedding that didn't happen when Alina first heard the name Rowan Ashcroft. She was in town meeting with a supplier when she overheard two women talking. "Did you hear? The Duke of Ashcroft is back. I thought he was abroad." "He was, but his father's health is failing, so he's come home to manage things." "Is he married?" "No. And apparently he's not interested. Every man's interested. Not this one." Caroline tried to introduce her daughter, and he barely looked at her. "Maybe he's just particular. Or maybe he's just cold." Alina didn't think much of it. But 3 weeks later, she met him. What? It happened at a county meeting, landowners gathering to discuss irrigation disputes. Alina attended because the Whitford estate had water rights at stake, and she wasn't about to let someone else negotiate them away. She was one of two women in the room. The other was a widow in her 60s. The men didn't bother hiding their irritation. "Miss Whitford," one of them said with thinly veiled condescension, "perhaps you'd be more comfortable waiting outside while we discuss the technical matters." "I'm perfectly comfortable here, thank you. These are complex issues, which is why I've brought documentation." She set a folder on the table. "Your proposal redirects water from the northern tributaries. That violates agreements dating back 40 years. Here are the contracts." The man blinked. Well, those are outdated. They're legally binding." "Miss Whitford, I don't think you understand. I understand that you're trying to renegotiate terms without compensating the affected parties. That's not complex. That's theft." A few men shifted uncomfortably. One of them, a man Alina didn't recognize, leaned back in his chair and smiled slightly. He was younger than most of the others, maybe early 30s, dressed well but not ostentatiously. Dark hair, sharp features, eyes that didn't miss anything. "She's right," he said quietly. The room turned. "Your Grace," first man stammered. "I didn't realize you were I'm familiar with contracts, and hers are valid." He looked at Alina. "You're Margaret Whitford's daughter?" "Yes." "I've heard of you." Alina's stomach tightened. "Of course you have." But his expression didn't change. No pity, no judgment, just assessment. "You've been managing the estate?" "For the past year." "Successfully?" "We're still standing." "That's more than most can say." The meeting continued, but the tone had shifted. With the Duke of Ashcroft backing her position, no one dared argue. Afterward, as people filed out, he approached her. "Miss Whitford?" She turned. "Your Grace, I'd like to discuss a potential partnership." "What kind of partnership?" "You need capital. I need someone who understands land management in this region. We might be able to help each other." Alina studied him carefully. "Why me?" "Because you're competent, And I don't have time to waste on people who aren't. It wasn't flattery, it was fact. I'll consider it, Alina said. Good. He handed her a card. Send word when you've decided. He left before she could respond. Alina looked down at the card. Rowan Ashcroft, Duke of Ashcroft. And for the first time in a long time, she felt something other than anger or numbness. Curiosity. But they met again a week later. Rowan's estate was larger than hers, better maintained but not ostentatious. He received her in his study. No formalities, no pretense. Thank you for coming. You made a compelling offer. I made a practical one. He gestured to a chair. Sit. We have a lot to discuss. They spent 2 hours going over numbers, plans, logistics. Rowan was direct, efficient, and never once treated her like she didn't belong in the conversation. You're better at this than I expected, he said at one point. You expected incompetence? I expected someone still learning. You're past that. It was the closest thing to a compliment she'd heard in months. As the meeting ended, Rowan leaned back in his chair. Can I ask you something? If you must. Why are you doing this? Managing the estate? No. Rebuilding. Most people in your position would have sold everything and left. Alina's jaw tightened. You mean most people who were publicly humiliated? Yes. She appreciated the honesty, at least. I stayed because leaving would have felt like surrender. To whom? Everyone. Rowan nodded slowly. I understand that. Do you? More than you'd think. There was something in his voice, something unspoken that made Alina pause, but she didn't press. I should go, she said, standing. We'll meet again next week, same time. Agreed. As she left, she glanced back once. Rowan was already back at his desk, reviewing documents, expression unreadable. And Alina realized something. She didn't mind working with him. In fact, she might even respect him. Over the following months, their partnership deepened. They met weekly, sometimes twice weekly. They discussed irrigation, crop rotation, tenant agreements, everything. But gradually, the conversation shifted. You read faster than anyone I've ever met, Rowan remarked one afternoon. I have to. There's too much to keep track of. Most people would hire someone. Most people have money to spare. You could have married money. Alina looked up sharply. Rowan didn't flinch. I'm not judging. I'm observing. I'm not interested in marrying for money. What are you interested in? Survival. That's not much of a goal. It's enough. Rowan studied her for a long moment. No, it's not. Alina set down her pen. What do you want from me? Nothing. I just think you're capable of more than survival. You don't know me. I know enough. You know what people say about me. I don't care what people say. Everyone cares? I don't. And the strange thing was, she believed him. Another month passed. Alina found herself looking forward to their meetings, not just for the work, but for the conversation. Rowan was sharp, blunt, occasionally infuriating, but never cruel, never dismissive. He challenged her, and she realized she'd missed that. One evening, after a particularly long session, he poured her a drink without asking. You don't drink, she said. I don't, you do. She accepted the glass. How do you know? You mentioned it once, 6 weeks ago. Alina blinked. You remember that? I remember most things. They sat in silence for a moment. Can I ask you something? Alina said finally. If I can ask you something in return. Fair. Go ahead. Why did you come back? Rowan's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. My father's dying. I'm sorry. Don't be. We're not close. Then why come back? Duty. Alina understood that. My turn, Rowan said. Why did you stay at the altar? Alina's breath caught. You could have left. You should have. But you didn't. I don't know why. Yes, you do. She looked away. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction. Of what? Watching me break. Rowan nodded slowly. Good. Good? You didn't break. That matters. Alina's throat tightened, and for the first time since that day in the chapel, she felt seen, not pitied, not judged. Seen. 3 months later, Rowan asked her to dinner. Not a business meeting. Dinner. Alina hesitated. It's just dinner, Alina. People will talk. People already talk. About me, not you. I can handle it. She wanted to say no, but she didn't. Done. The dinner was quiet, private, nothing extravagant. They talked about books, about travel, about things that had nothing to do with contracts or land rights. And Alina realized something terrifying. She was comfortable, more than comfortable. She was happy. And that scared her more than anything, because happiness felt dangerous. It felt like a trap. A week later, Rowan kissed her. It was late, after another meeting, and he'd walked her to her carriage. Alina. She turned, and he kissed her. Not forcefully, not desperately, just certainly. When he pulled back, she stared at him, heart pounding. If you don't want this, tell me now, Rowan said quietly. I'll never mention it again. Alina's mind raced. This is a mistake. This will end badly. You know it will. But her voice said something else. I don't know what I want. That's fine. Rowan, take your time. I'm not going anywhere. And he meant it. She could see it in his eyes. He wasn't Edmund. He wasn't going to vanish. But that didn't make it easier, because trusting him meant risking everything. And Alina didn't know if she had anything left to risk. The weeks after that kiss stretched into something Alina couldn't name. Not quite a relationship. Not quite nothing. Rowan didn't push, didn't demand answers. He just continued, showed up at their meetings the same as always, discussed business with the same precision, and at the end of each session, he'd look at her like he was waiting for something she couldn't give. You're being patient, Alina said one afternoon, 3 weeks later. They were reviewing contracts in his study. Rain hammered against the windows. The fire crackled low in the hearth. Rowan glanced up from the document he was reading. Is that a criticism? It's an observation. I'm patient when it matters. And this matters? He set down the paper. Do you want me to say yes? I don't know what I want. You've said that before. Because it's still true. Rowan leaned back in his chair, studying her. What scares you more? Trusting me or admitting you already do? Alina's chest tightened. She looked away. I should go. Alina, I have work to finish. She stood, gathering her things with movements that were too quick, too sharp. Rowan didn't try to stop her. He just watched as she moved toward the door. Her hand was on the handle when he spoke. He destroyed something in you. I understand that. But you can't let him keep destroying it. She froze. I'm not trying to replace what you lost, Rowan continued quietly. I'm offering something different, but you have to decide if you want it. Alina didn't turn around. What if I can't? Can't what? Decide. What if I'm too broken for this? You're not broken. You don't know that. Yes, I do. She finally looked back at him. His expression was calm, certain, maddeningly certain. How? She asked. Because broken people don't rebuild estates. They don't fight bankers and negotiate water rights, and stand in rooms full of men who underestimate them. You've been surviving on your own terms for 2 years. That's not broken. That's… what? Strong? She laughed bitterly. I'm not strong. I'm angry. I'm terrified. And I don't trust anyone. You trust yourself. That's not enough. It's more than most people have. Alina shook her head. I can't do this right now. This time, she left, and Rowan let her. That night, Alina couldn't sleep. She paced her room, replaying the conversation, hating how exposed she'd felt, hating how much she'd said, hating that Rowan had been right about things she didn't want to admit. He destroyed something in you. Yes, Edmund had, and she'd spent 2 years trying to pretend the wreckage didn't matter. That if she just worked hard enough, controlled enough, kept everyone at arm's length, she'd be fine. But she wasn't fine, she was exhausted. And the thought of letting someone in again, of giving Rowan the power to hurt her, made her want to run. But where would she run to? She'd already rebuilt her life here. This was all she had. A knock at the door startled her. "Alina?" Clara's voice. "Are you awake?" Alina opened the door. Her sister stood there in a nightgown, holding a candle, looking worried. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. I heard you pacing." "I'm fine." Clara stepped inside without invitation, setting the candle on the dresser. "You're not fine. You haven't been fine in years." "Clara, I'm not trying to upset you. She hesitated. "Is it the Duke?" Alina stiffened. "What about him?" "People are talking. They say you're spending a lot of time together. We're business partners." "Is that all?" Alina didn't answer. Clara sat on the edge of the bed. "Do you like him?" "It doesn't matter." "Of course it matters." "No, it doesn't." Alina crossed her arms. "Even if I did, which I'm not saying I do, it wouldn't change anything. I'm not going through that again." "Going through what?" "A relationship. A betrayal." "Alina, not every man is Edmund." "I know that." "Do you?" Alina looked at her sister, young, hopeful, still naive enough to believe love was simple. "You don't understand." "Then explain it to me." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because you've never stood in front of 200 people and realized the person you trusted most in the world thought you were disposable." Alina's voice cracked. "You've never had to smile through the pity and the whispers and the looks that say you should have known better. You've never had to rebuild yourself from nothing because everyone decided you were finished." Claire's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Just don't tell me it's easy to trust someone again. Because it's not. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it might be worth it. Or it might destroy me." "You're already destroyed, Alina. You've just gotten very good at hiding it." The words hit like a punch. Alina sank into the chair by the window, suddenly too tired to argue. Clara crossed the room and knelt beside her. "The Duke. Rowan. He's not Edmund. Everyone can see that except you. You don't know him. I know he looks at you like you matter. That's more than Edmund ever did." Alina closed her eyes. "What if he changes his mind? What if he doesn't? I can't risk it." "You're already risking it. By caring. By spending time with him. By letting him matter." Clara squeezed her hand. "The only question is whether you're brave enough to admit it." After Clara left, Alina sat in the dark for a long time. And she realized her sister was right. She was already in too deep. The next time Alina saw Rowan, she was the one who asked to meet. He received her in the same study, same quiet efficiency, but his eyes held a question. "I need to tell you something," Alina said before she lost her nerve. "All right." She sat, hands folded tightly in her lap. "I'm afraid." Rowan waited. "I'm afraid of this. Of you. Of what happens if I let myself—" She stopped, searching for the right words. "I don't know how to trust someone again. I don't even know if I'm capable of it anymore." "You're here," Rowan said quietly. "That's a start." "Is it?" "Yes." "What if it's not enough?" "Then we'll figure it out." "You make it sound simple." "It's not simple, but it's not impossible either." Alina looked at him, really looked at him, at the steadiness in his gaze, the patience that never wavered, the way he never flinched from her worst moments. "Why do you want this?" she asked. "Why me?" Rowan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Because you're the first person I've met in years who doesn't want anything from me except honesty." "That's all?" "No, but it's the part that matters most." Alina's throat tightened. "I don't know how to do this." "Neither do I." "You seem like you do." "I'm better at pretending." She almost smiled. Almost. "Can we go slowly?" she asked. "As slowly as you need. And if I can't, then we stop. No questions. No blame." Alina exhaled shakily. Okay. Okay? Okay. Rowan's expression softened, not with pity, with something quieter. Relief, maybe. Come to dinner tomorrow, he said. Not a meeting, just dinner. Just dinner? Just dinner. Alina nodded. All right. And for the first time in 2 years, she let herself hope. The next 3 months were the strangest of Alina's life. She and Rowan didn't rush, didn't push. They had dinner twice a week, took walks through his estate, talked about everything except the thing neither of them wanted to name. But it was there. In the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching, in the way she found excuses to stay longer, in the way silence between them stopped feeling uncomfortable and started feeling safe. People noticed, of course. Society always noticed. But Rowan didn't care, and Alina was learning not to. One afternoon, they were walking through the gardens when Rowan stopped abruptly. What? Alina asked. He was staring at something in the distance, a woman approaching with a young man beside her. Who is that? Rowan's jaw tightened. My cousin. And her son. Should I leave? No. The woman reached them, smiling in a way that didn't reach her eyes. She was elegant, sharply dressed, and radiated the kind of confidence that came from knowing she belonged. Rowan, she said warmly, I didn't know you had company. Vivienne. His tone was polite but cold. This is Miss Alina Whitford. Alina, my cousin, Vivienne Ashcroft. Vivienne's gaze swept over Alina with surgical precision. Miss Whitford, how lovely to meet you. Likewise. I've heard about you, of course. Vivienne's smile sharpened. You're the one who, well, I'm sure it must have been difficult. Alina's stomach clenched, but she kept her expression neutral. It was a long time ago. Of course. And you've moved on so admirably. Running your family's estate, I hear? Yes. How industrious. The word dripped with condescension. Rowan, we should discuss the estate finances. Father's accounts are in disarray. Not now. It's urgent. I said not now. Vivienne's smile thinned. She glanced at Alina again. I see. Well, don't let me interrupt. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, Rowan, I heard the most interesting rumor. Something about a proposal? Rowan's expression didn't change, but Alina felt him tense beside her. What rumor? Just that you've been spending quite a bit of time with Miss Whitford. People do wonder about your intentions. People should mind their own business. Of course, but you know how society is, especially when it comes to delicate situations. Her gaze flicked to Alina. I'm sure Miss Whitford understands. Alina's hands curled into fists, but she said nothing. Vivienne left, her son trailing behind her. Rowan exhaled slowly. I apologize for that. You don't need to apologize for her. She's always been cruel, calculating. Is there a difference? Rowan looked at her. Are you all right? I'm fine. Alina, I said I'm fine. But her voice was too sharp, too tight. Rowan didn't push. He just stood there, waiting. And finally Alina said, She's right, you know. About what? About people wondering. About it being a delicate situation. I'm the abandoned bride, Rowan. I'm a scandal, and if you're seen with me, I don't care. You should. Why? Because it will damage your reputation. My reputation can handle it. Mine can't. Rowan stepped closer. What are you really afraid of? Alina looked away. That this ends the same way. It won't. You can't know that. No, but I can choose it every day, and I do. Book. Alina wanted to believe him. She did. But Vivienne's words echoed in her mind. Delicate situations. People do wonder. She'd spent 2 years clawing her way out of the wreckage Edmund left behind, and now she was risking it all again. I need time, she said quietly. You have it. Rowan? Take all the time you need, Alina. I'm not going anywhere. But as they walked back to the house, Alina couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. A week later, Margaret cornered her. We need to talk. Alina looked up from the ledger she was reviewing. About what? The Duke. What about him? Margaret closed the door and sat down. People are talking. People are always talking. This is different. They're saying you're courting. We're not courting. Then what are you doing? Alina set down her pen. I don't know. That's not good enough. Why not? Because you're playing a dangerous game, Alina. If this ends badly, it won't. You don't know that. Neither do you. Margaret's expression hardened. I know what happened last time. I know how close we came to losing everything, and I know that if you make another mistake, this isn't a mistake. How can you be sure? Because he's not Edmund. The words burst out louder than Alina intended. She stood, pacing. He's not Edmund. He doesn't lie. He doesn't make promises he can't keep. He's a duke, Alina. Do you really think he's going to marry someone with your history? The question landed like a blade. Alina stopped pacing. What are you saying? I'm saying be realistic. Men like him don't marry women like you. They might court you. They might care about you, but when it comes time to choose a wife, stop. I'm trying to protect you. By telling me I'm not good enough? By telling you the truth. Alina's hands shook. Get out. Alina, I said get out. Margaret stood, expression tight. I'm saying this because I love you. If you loved me, you'd believe I deserve better than this. Margaret left without another word. Alina sank into her chair, chest heaving. Men like him don't marry women like you. Was that true? She didn't know. And the not knowing was destroying her. That night, Alina made a decision. She couldn't keep doing this. Couldn't keep second-guessing. Couldn't keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. She needed to know. So the next morning, she went to Rowan's estate unannounced. The butler looked surprised, but let her in. I'll see if His Grace is available. I'll wait. Rowan appeared a few minutes later, still in his riding clothes. Alina, I wasn't expecting... We need to talk. His expression shifted. All right. They went to the study. Alina didn't sit. I need to ask you something, she said. And I need you to answer honestly. I always answer honestly. Good. She took a breath. What are your intentions? Rowan blinked. My intentions? With me? With this? Whatever this is. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I want to marry you. The words hung in the air. Alina stared at him. What? I want to marry you, Rowan repeated calmly. I have for months. You can't. Why not? Because she gestured helplessly. Because of what happened. Because of who I am. Because you think you're damaged? I don't think it. I know it. Rowan crossed the room slowly. You're not damaged, Alina. You're careful. There's a difference. Rowan, I'm not asking you to say yes right now. I'm not even asking you to say yes at all. I'm just telling you what I want. And what I want is you. Not despite your past. Not in spite of it. Just you. Alana's vision blurred. I can't. You can. You just don't believe it yet. What if I never believe it? Then I'll keep proving it until you do. She shook her head. You don't understand. I understand that you're terrified. I understand that trusting me feels impossible. But Alina, he stepped closer. I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking for real. And I think you want that too. I don't know what I want. Yes, you do. You're just afraid to say it. Alina backed away. I need to go. Alina, I can't do this. Not right now. I need to think. She turned and walked out before he could stop her. And this time, she didn't look back. For 3 days, Alina didn't leave the manor. She told herself she was working, told herself she just needed space. But the truth was, she was hiding. Because Rowan had offered her exactly what she wanted, and she had no idea how to accept it. On the 4th day, Clara found her in the library. You're being ridiculous. Alina didn't look up from the book she wasn't reading. Thank you for your input. I'm serious. He proposed. He didn't propose. He just stated his intentions, which is basically a proposal. It's not the same. Clara sat down across from her. What are you so afraid of? Everything. Be specific. Alina finally looked at her. I'm afraid he'll change his mind. I'm afraid I'll say yes and wake up one day and he'll be gone. I'm afraid I'll stand at another altar and... Her voice broke. Clara reached across and took her hand. He's not Edmund. Everyone keeps saying that. Because it's true. You don't know that. No one knows that. You're right. We don't. But Alina, you can't live your whole life afraid of what might happen. At some point, you have to take a risk. And if it destroys me, then at least you tried. Alina pulled her hand away. That's easy for you to say. Is it? Clara's expression hardened. You think I don't know what it's like to be scared? I watched what happened to you. I watched you fall apart. And I've spent the last 2 years terrified that if I make one wrong move, I'll end up the same way. Alina stared at her sister. Clara, but I'm starting to realize something. Watching you hide from everything that could hurt you, it's worse than the hurt itself. Because at least when you're hurt, you're living. What you're doing now, this isn't living, it's surviving, and you deserve more than that. The words settled over Alina like weight. Clara stood. You have a man who wants to marry you, who sees you, who doesn't care about the scandal or the gossip or any of it, and you're going to throw that away because you're afraid. I'm not... Yes, you are. And I understand why. But Alina, she paused at the door. Edmund took enough from you. Don't let him take this too. She left, and Alina sat there, alone, staring at nothing. That night, Alina dreamed about the chapel. She was standing at the altar again, in her white dress, waiting. But this time, when she looked up, it wasn't Edmund walking toward her. It was Rowan, and he didn't disappear. She woke with her heart pounding. The room was dark, silent, and Alina knew what she had to do. The next morning, she rode to Rowan's estate. He was outside, overseeing repairs on the stables. When he saw her approaching, he stopped, expression unreadable. Alina dismounted, walked toward him. I'm terrified, she said without preamble. Rowan watched her carefully. I know, and I don't know if I can do this. I know that too, but I want to try. His expression shifted. Something like hope flickered in his eyes. You sure? No, but I'm here anyway. Rowan stepped closer. What changed? I realized I'm more afraid of never trying than I am of failing. He reached for her hand. She let him take it. I can't promise this will be easy, Alina said quietly. I can't promise I won't panic or doubt or... I'm not asking for promises. I'm asking for a chance. Alina looked up at him, at the man who'd been patient when she was impossible, who'd stayed when she'd pushed him away, who'd offered her something she didn't think she deserved. Yes, she whispered. Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. Rowan's breath caught. Then he smiled, genuinely, fully smiled. And Alina felt something crack open inside her. He pulled her close, and she let him. And for the first time in years, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she was allowed to be happy. But even as she stood there in his arms, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered, what if this is a mistake? She pushed it down. She had to. Because if she listened to that voice, she'd never move forward. And Alina was done standing still. But 3 weeks later, standing in Rowan's drawing room with his family's solicitor, droning on about marriage contracts and property settlements, she felt anything but forward-moving. The dowry arrangement, of course, will need to be formalized, the solicitor was saying, adjusting his spectacles. Given the circumstances... What circumstances? Alina interrupted. The man blinked. Well, the Whitford estate's current financial position is stable. Yes, but compared to the Ashcroft holdings, I'm not marrying him for his money. Of course not, Miss Whitford, but these matters must be addressed. Then address them without implying I'm destitute. Rowan, seated across from her, caught her eye. Something like amusement flickered there. Perhaps we could take a different approach, Mr. Graves. The solicitor cleared his throat. Of course, Your Grace. I merely meant to clarify. Clarify by stating facts, not assumptions. Yes, quite right. Graves shuffled his papers. Now, regarding the marriage settlement itself, they spent another hour wading through legal language that made Alina's head pound. Percentages and provisions and clauses about heirs and property rights. It felt transactional, cold, nothing like what she'd imagined when she'd said yes. When Graves finally left, Alina stood and crossed to the window. That was insufferable, she said. He's thorough. He's condescending. Rowan came to stand beside her. Are you all right? I'm fine. You don't look fine. She turned to face him. Do we have to do all of this? The contracts, the negotiations, the legal protection? Yes. It feels wrong. It's practical. It's treating marriage like a business transaction. Rowan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Would you prefer we didn't protect your interests? I'd prefer we didn't need to. But we do. Because if something happens to me, don't. Alina, I don't want to talk about something happening to you. He touched her arm gently. I'm not trying to upset you. I'm trying to make sure you're safe. That's what this is. She knew he was right, knew it was necessary, but it didn't make it easier. When do we announce? She asked instead. Whenever you're ready. What if I'm never ready? Then we wait. Alina shook her head. No, we can't wait. If we wait, I'll talk myself out of it. Will you? Probably. Rowan's expression softened. I won't let you. You can't stop me from being terrified. No. But I can keep reminding you why you said yes. She wanted to believe him, wanted to silence the voice in her head that kept whispering this was a mistake. Next week, she said suddenly. For the announcement? Yes. Before I lose my nerve. Rowan studied her face. Are you sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. The announcement appeared in the society papers 7 days later. The Duke of Ashcroft and Miss Alina Whitford are pleased to announce their engagement. 20 words. That's all it took to set the world on fire. The first letter arrived that afternoon, then another, then a dozen more. Some were congratulatory, most were not. Margaret read one aloud over dinner, her voice flat. It says here that you've ensnared yet another unsuspecting gentleman. Charming. Alina set down her fork. Who wrote that? Lady Pemberton. Of course she did. Clara reached across the table and squeezed Alina's hand. Ignore her. She's just bitter because her daughter's been trying to catch a duke for 3 years. That doesn't make it less awful. No, but it makes it less true. Margaret folded the letter and set it aside. There will be more. You need to be prepared for that. I am prepared. Are you? Her mother's gaze was sharp. Because once you marry him, every mistake you make will reflect on him. Every scandal, every misstep. I'm aware. Are you? Because this isn't just about you anymore, Alina. It's about the Ashcroft name. And if you can't handle that, I can handle it. Can you? Because the last time I was betrayed, Alina snapped. This is different. Is it? Yes. Margaret didn't look convinced, but she let it drop. That night, Alina lay awake, staring at the ceiling, Margaret's words circling in her mind. Every mistake you make will reflect on him. It was true, and the weight of it pressed down on her chest like a stone. 2 days later, Rowan took her to meet his father. The old duke was bedridden, pale and frail, his hands shaking slightly where they rested on the blanket. But his eyes were sharp when they settled on Alina. So you're the one, he said, voice rasping. Yes, sir. He looked her up and down. You don't look like much. Rowan stiffened beside her. Father, I'm not insulting her. I'm observing. She's smaller than I expected, quieter. I can speak for myself, Alina said evenly. The old man's mouth twitched. Good. Rowan needs someone who won't let him steamroll them. I don't steamroll. You absolutely do, his father interrupted. Always have. Drives everyone mad. He turned back to Alina. You know what you're getting into? I think so. You think so, or you know so. Alina met his gaze. I know it won't be easy. I know people will talk. I know there will be expectations I might not meet, but I'm doing it anyway. The Duke was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. You'll do. That's it? Rowan asked. What else do you want me to say? I'm dying, not blind. She's got spine. That's more than most of the women you could have chosen. It wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement, but Alina would take it. As they left, Rowan's father called after them. Rowan? Yes? Don't mess this up. Rowan's jaw tightened, but he nodded. In the carriage ride back, Alina said, He's blunt. He's dying. He doesn't have time for subtlety. Do you think he approves? Does it matter? It matters to you. Rowan looked at her. What makes you say that? The way your shoulders tensed when he said you steamroll people. The way you looked when he told you not to mess this up. You're very observant. I have to be. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Yes, it matters, but not enough to change anything. Alina leaned back against the seat. When he dies, don't. Rowan, we have to talk about it eventually. Why? Because everything will change. You'll be the Duke, fully, not just in name. I'm aware. And I'll be the Duchess. Yes. She turned to look at him. What if I'm not ready? You will be. You don't know that. I know you've been running an estate for 2 years. I know you negotiate better than most men I've met. I know you don't back down when people underestimate you. That's more than ready. That's different. That's business. This is... She gestured helplessly. This is everything else. Rowan reached for her hand. We'll figure it out. Together. You keep saying that. Because I mean it. Alina wanted to believe him, but the doubt was still there, gnawing at the edges. 3 weeks before the wedding, Vivian appeared at Whitford Manor. Alina was in the study, reviewing final details, when the maid announced her. Show her in, Alina said, though every instinct told her not to. Vivian swept into the room like she owned it, dressed impeccably, smiling that same sharp smile. Miss Whitford, I hope I'm not intruding. What do you want? Vivian sat without being invited. I wanted to congratulate you, properly. We didn't get to speak much last time. We spoke enough. Did we? Vivian folded her hands in her lap. I'm not here to cause trouble. Then why are you here? To give you some advice. Alina set down her pen. I didn't ask for advice. No, but you need it. Vivian leaned forward slightly. You're marrying into a family you don't understand, a world you don't belong to, and people will eat you alive if you're not careful. I'm aware. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, you seem remarkably naive about what's coming. Alina's hands curled into fists under the desk. Say what you came to say. Rowan is a good man, but he's also a duke, and dukes don't marry for love. They marry for alliances, for power, for legacy. He's marrying me. Is he? Vivian's smile widened. Or is he marrying the idea of you, the project, the broken thing he can fix? The words hit like a slap. Get out, Alina said quietly. I'm trying to help you. You're trying to undermine me, and I won't sit here and listen to it. Vivian stood slowly. Fine, but when reality sets in, when you realize you're in over your head, don't say I didn't warn you. She left. Alina sat there, shaking, Vivian's words echoing in her mind. The broken thing he can fix. Was that what she was to Rowan? A project? No. No, she refused to believe that, but the doubt had been planted, and it grew. That night, Alina couldn't sleep. She paced her room, replaying the conversation, hating how much it had gotten under her skin. Finally, she threw on a cloak and rode to Rowan's estate. It was past midnight when she arrived. The house was dark except for a single light in the study. She let herself in. Rowan had given her a key weeks ago and found him at his desk, still working. He looked up, surprised. Alina, what are you Am I a project to you? He blinked. What? Am I something you're trying to fix? Rowan set down his pen slowly. Where is this coming from? Vivian came to see me. His expression darkened. What did she say? It doesn't matter what she said. I need to know, am I a project? No. You answered too quickly. Because it's not a complicated question. No, you're not a project. Alina crossed her arms. Then what am I? Rowan stood, moving around the desk. You're the woman I want to marry. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. Rowan, what do you want me to say, Alina? That I see you as broken and I'm trying to fix you? I don't. You're not broken. Everyone thinks I am. I don't care what everyone thinks. You should. You're marrying me. My reputation, your reputation is that you survived something that would have destroyed most people. If anything, that makes you stronger, not weaker. Alina shook her head. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. I'm terrified that this is all going to fall apart, that one day you're going to wake up and realize you made a mistake. I won't. You don't know that. Yes, I do. He stepped closer. Alina, I know you're scared. I know you have every reason to be, but I'm not Edmund. I'm not going to disappear. I'm not going to change my mind. And I'm not marrying you because I think I can fix you. I'm marrying you because I don't want to spend my life with anyone else. Disease. Her chest tightened. What if I can't be what you need? You already are. What if I fail? Then we fail together. She wanted to believe him, wanted it so badly it hurt, but the fear was still there. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Rowan pulled her close. Neither do I, but we'll figure it out. She leaned into him, letting herself be held, and for a moment the doubt quieted, but only for a moment. The wedding was scheduled for the end of the month. Alina threw herself into preparations, final fittings, guest lists, seating arrangements, anything to keep her mind occupied. But the closer the date came, the harder it was to breathe. She started having nightmares. In them, she was standing at the altar again, waiting. And Rowan never came. Or worse, he came, but halfway through the ceremony, he stopped, looked at her, and walked away. She'd wake, gasping, heart pounding, unable to shake the feeling that it was a premonition. Clara noticed. You look awful, she said one morning. Thank you. I'm serious. When's the last time you slept? I sleep. Alina, I'm fine. You're not fine. You're falling apart. Alina set down the invitation she was addressing. I said I'm fine. Then why do you look like you're about to run? I'm not going to run. Aren't you? Alina met her sister's eyes. What do you want me to say? The truth. The truth is I'm terrified. The truth is every time I close my eyes, I see it all falling apart. The truth is I don't know if I can actually go through with this. Clara sat down slowly. Do you love him? Alina hesitated. I don't know. How can you not know? Because I don't know what love is supposed to feel like anymore. I thought I loved Edmund, and look how that turned out. Rowan isn't Edmund. Everyone keeps saying that. But what if he is? What if I'm just too stupid to see it? You're not stupid. Then why am I so scared? Clara reached across and took her hand. Because you're human, and you've been hurt. But Alina, if you let fear make this decision for you, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. And if I don't, if I go through with it and it all falls apart, then at least you'll know you tried. Alina pulled her hand away. That's not enough. Then what is? She didn't have an answer. A week before the wedding, Rowan found her in the garden. She was sitting on a bench, staring at nothing. Alina. She looked up. Hi. He sat beside her. We need to talk. Her stomach dropped. About what? About the fact that you're pulling away. I'm not. Yes, you are. You've been distant for days. You barely look at me. And when you do, you look like you're expecting me to vanish. Alina's throat tightened. I'm adjusting. To what? To all of this. All of what? The wedding, the pressure, the... She stopped. Everything. Rowan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Do you want to call it off?" The question hung in the air like a knife. Alina stared at him. "What?" "If you're not ready, if you don't want this, we can stop. Right now. No judgment, no blame." "You're giving me an out?" "I'm giving you a choice." She wanted to say no. Wanted to tell him she was ready, that she wanted this, that she wasn't going to run, but the words wouldn't come. "I don't know," she whispered. Rowan's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed steady. "Then figure it out, because I can't marry someone who's already halfway out the door. Rowan, I love you, Alina, but I won't force you into this. If you don't want it, if you don't want me, then we stop. Now." Tears blurred her vision. "I do want you." "Do you, or do you just want the idea of moving on?" "That's not fair." "Maybe not, but it's honest." He stood. Alina grabbed his hand. "Don't go. I'm not going anywhere, but you need to decide what you want, because this," he gestured between them, "this only works if we both choose it, every day, and right now, I'm not sure you are." He pulled his hand free gently and walked away. And Alina sat there, alone, with the weight of his words crushing her. That night, she made her decision. Not because she was sure, not because the fear had gone away, but because she realized something. She could spend the rest of her life protecting herself from pain, or she could take the risk, and risk, she was learning, was the only way forward. She rode to Rowan's estate in the dark, hands shaking, heart pounding. He answered the door himself, still dressed, like he'd been waiting. "Alina, I'm terrified," she said quickly. "I'm terrified that this won't work, that you'll leave, that I'll mess it up, that I'm not enough." "Alina, but I'm more terrified of losing you. And I realized, standing in that garden after you left, that the only thing worse than risking everything would be not risking anything at all." Rowan stepped closer. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want this. I want you. And I'm done letting fear make my decisions." "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm here anyway." He pulled her into his arms, and she let herself collapse against him. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For pulling away. For doubting. For..." "Stop. You don't have to apologize." "Yes, I do." "No, you don't." He pulled back just enough to look at her. "You've been through hell, Alina. I don't expect you to be fearless. I just need you to be honest." "I am being honest. I'm terrified. But I'm choosing you anyway." Rowan kissed her then, fierce and certain, and Alina felt something inside her finally let go. Not all the fear, but enough. 4 days before the wedding, the letter arrived. It was addressed to Alina, delivered by a courier she didn't recognize. She opened it alone in her room, and her blood turned to ice. "Miss Whitford, I thought you should know the truth before you make the mistake of marrying the Duke. Ask him about the arrangement with his father. Ask him why he really proposed. Ask him what he stands to gain, someone who wishes you well." Alina read it 3 times. Her hand shook. The arrangement. What he stands to gain. No. No, it couldn't be true. But the doubt, the same doubt Vivian had planted, roared back to life. She rode to Rowan's estate that night, letter clutched in her hand. He was in the study when she burst in. "What arrangement?" she demanded. Rowan looked up, confused. "What?" "What arrangement did you have with your father?" His expression shifted. "Where did you hear about that?" "So it's true." "Alina, answer the question." Rowan stood slowly. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" He hesitated, just a fraction of a second, but it was enough. Alina's stomach dropped. "Tell me," she said quietly. "My father's will..." Rowan stopped, started again. "He made a provision. If I marry before he dies, the estate stays intact. If I don't, it gets divided among the extended family." The room tilted. "So you needed to marry?" "Yes." "And that's why you proposed?" "No." "Then why didn't you tell me?" "Because it doesn't matter. It matters to me." Her voice cracked. "You let me think this was real, that you wanted me. But it was just another contract. That's not true, isn't it? You needed a wife. I was convenient. The abandoned bride no one else wanted. Alina, listen to me. No. She backed toward the door. I was right. This was a mistake. Alina, please, I can't do this. I can't. Her voice broke. I can't marry you. She ran, and this time, Rowan didn't follow. Alina made it halfway down the drive before her legs gave out. She sank onto the cold ground, clutching the letter, and something inside her just broke. Not the sharp, clean break of the chapel. This was worse. This was the crack that had been forming for years, finally splitting wide open. She'd been so stupid, so desperate to believe someone could want her that she'd ignored every warning sign, the careful negotiations, the convenient timing, the way he'd appeared in her life exactly when she needed saving. The broken thing he can fix. Vivian had been right all along. The carriage pulled up beside her. The driver climbed down, looking uncertain. Miss Whitford, shall I take you home? Home. Where was that anymore? Yes, she whispered. He helped her up. Her legs felt like water. The ride back was a blur. She stared out the window, seeing nothing. The letter still crumpled in her fist. When they reached Whitford Manor, she went straight to her room and locked the door. Clara knocked an hour later. Alina, what happened? Go away. Alina, I said go away. Silence. Then footsteps retreating. Alina sat on the floor, back against the door, and tried to breathe, but every breath felt like shards of glass. She'd been here before, 4 years ago, sitting alone, humiliated, wondering what she'd done wrong, except this time she knew exactly what she'd done wrong. She'd trusted again. Morning came. Alina didn't move. Margaret found her there at dawn, still on the floor, eyes dry because she was past tears. Alina? Her mother's voice was sharp. What's happened? Alina handed her the letter. Margaret read it, expression hardening with each word. When she finished, she folded it carefully. This is anonymous. So? So it could be lies. Rowan didn't deny it. What exactly did he say? Alina closed her eyes. That his father's will requires him to marry or lose the estate. That he needed a wife. And nothing. That's enough. Did he say he married you for the estate? He didn't have to. Margaret sat down on the bed, studying her daughter. You're going to throw this away based on an anonymous letter and half a conversation? It's not half a conversation. It's the truth. Is it? Or is it what you want to believe because it's easier than trusting him? Alina's eyes snapped open. Easier? You think this is easier? I think you've been looking for a reason to run since the moment he proposed, and now you've found one. That's not… Yes, it is. Margaret's voice was cold, factual. You've been terrified from the beginning, and the moment something confirmed your worst fears, you bolted, just like you've been planning to all along. He lied to me. Did he? Or did he just not tell you something that didn't matter? It matters to me. Why? Because it gives you permission to leave? Margaret stood. Fine. Leave. Cancel the wedding. Spend the rest of your life alone and convinced everyone will betray you. But don't pretend this is about him lying. This is about you being afraid. She walked out. Alina sat there, her mother's words echoing. You've been looking for a reason to run. No, that wasn't true, was it? Clara came next. She didn't knock, just used the spare key and let herself in. Get up. No. Alina, get up. I don't want to talk about this. Too bad. Clara crossed to the windows and threw open the curtains. Light flooded in, harsh and unforgiving. You're getting married in 3 days. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. Clara, listen to me. Clara turned, and her expression was harder than Alina had ever seen it. I've watched you rebuild yourself. I've watched you fight and work and refuse to give up. But this is giving up. I'm not… Yes, you are. You're letting one letter, one anonymous, vicious letter, destroy everything you've built. It's not just the letter. It's what he didn't tell me. So ask him why. I did. No, you accused him. Then you ran. Did you let him explain? Alina looked away. That's what I thought. Clara sat beside her on the floor. You know what I think? I'm sure you'll tell me. I think you're terrified that he actually does love you. Because if he does, then you can't use his father's will as an excuse. You can't pretend this isn't real. And that scares you more than anything. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You've convinced yourself you're unlovable. And the moment someone proves you wrong, you panic. The words hit like a punch. Alina's throat tightened. What if you're wrong? What if this is just like Edmund? Then you'll survive. Like you did before. But Alina, Clara took her hand. What if I'm right? Alina spent the rest of the day in her room, Clara's questions circling endlessly. What if I'm right? By evening, she couldn't stand it anymore. She needed answers, real ones, not assumptions or fear-driven conclusions. She needed the truth. So she did something she'd never done before. She went to see Rowan's father. The old Duke was worse than last time. His breathing labored, his skin gray, but his eyes were still sharp when Alina was shown in. Miss Whitford? His voice was barely a rasp. Come to call off the wedding? That depends. On what? On whether you can tell me the truth. He studied her for a long moment. Then he gestured weakly to a chair. Sit. She did. What do you want to know, Woos? He asked. Did you force Rowan to marry? Force? No. But you made it a condition of his inheritance. Yes. Why? The old man was quiet. Then he said, because he would have spent his whole life alone otherwise. Alina blinked. What? My son is brilliant, capable, and utterly convinced he doesn't deserve happiness. The Duke coughed, a rattling sound. I've watched him push away every person who's tried to get close, work himself to exhaustion, build walls so high no one could climb them. So you manipulated him. I gave him a deadline. The Duke's eyes met hers, and a reason to stop making excuses. That's not fair to him. No, but it worked, didn't it? Alina's hands clenched in her lap. Did he tell you he was going to propose to me? No, he told me he'd found someone worth marrying. Before or after you changed the will? After. Alina went still. He didn't know about the provision until after he proposed, the Duke continued. I told him the week you announced your engagement. Then why didn't he tell me? You'd have to ask him that. But if I had to guess? The old man's expression softened slightly. Because he was afraid you'd think exactly what you're thinking now. That it was transactional, that you were convenient. And I wasn't? You really think my son would marry someone he didn't want just to keep an estate? He could have chosen any number of women. Women without scandal, without complications. The Duke leaned forward slightly. But he chose you, and it wasn't because you were easy. It was because you were worth it. Alina's vision blurred. I don't know what to believe anymore. Then believe what you've seen, not what an anonymous letter tells you, not what your fear tells you. What has he shown you? She thought about the past months, the patience, the consistency, the way Rowan never flinched when she pushed him away, the way he'd offered her control, time, space, everything she needed. He's shown me, her voice broke, he's shown me everything. Then what are you doing here instead of with him? Alina left the Duke's room and stood in the hallway, heart pounding. She'd been wrong. Not about the will. That part was true. But about everything else. Rowan hadn't lied. He'd just been protecting something fragile, the same way she had, and she'd thrown it back in his face. She needed to find him, needed to... Well, Alina turned. Vivian stood at the end of the hall, smiling that sharp, predatory smile. Come to beg his father for forgiveness? Vivian asked. That's none of your business. Oh, but it is. You see, I've spent years watching Rowan close himself off, watching him refuse to let anyone in, and then you appeared, and for some inexplicable reason, he opened up. She stepped closer. I couldn't have that. Alina went cold. The letter. That was you. Of course it was me. Someone had to show you the truth. The truth? Or your version of it? Does it matter? You believed it. You ran, just like I knew you would. But Vivian's expression hardened. You're weak, Miss Whitford. You always have been, and Rowan deserves better than someone who'll shatter at the first sign of trouble. Something inside Alina snapped, not the fragile breaking kind of snap, the other kind, the kind that straightens spines and sharpens edges. You're right, she said quietly. Vivian blinked. What? I did run. I did shatter, because I was afraid. Alina stepped forward. But you know what? I'm done being afraid. I'm done letting people like you tell me what I deserve, and I'm done letting my past dictate my future. You can't just... I can. And I am. Alina's voice was steel now. You sent that letter because you're jealous, because you can't stand the thought of Rowan being happy with someone else. But here's the thing, Vivian. It's not your life, it's his and mine, and you don't get a vote. Vivian's face flushed. You think you've won? You think one conversation changes anything? I think I finally understand what I want. And it's not your approval. It's not society's approval. It's not even my own approval. Alina moved past her toward the stairs. It's just him, and I'm done wasting time pretending otherwise. She found Rowan in the stables. He was saddling a horse, movements mechanical, face drawn. He looked up when she entered, and something flashed in his eyes, hope, maybe, or fear. Alina. She crossed the space between them. I'm sorry. He went still. For what? For running, for not listening, for believing the worst instead of asking for the truth. You had every right to... No, I didn't. I had a right to be scared. But I didn't have a right to assume you were lying without giving you a chance to explain. She took a breath. Your father told me about the will. Rowan's jaw tightened. Of course he did. He told me you didn't know about it when you proposed. I didn't. Why didn't you tell me when you found out? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, because I was afraid you'd think exactly what you thought, that I needed a wife and you were convenient, that it was all transactional, and it wasn't? No. His voice was raw. It was never about the estate, never about convenience. It was about you, just you. Alina's eyes burned. I should have believed that. You couldn't, not after everything you've been through. I understand that. But I hurt you anyway. Yes. He didn't sugarcoat it. You did. I'm sorry. Rowan set down the saddle and turned to face her fully. What do you want, Alina? I want to marry you. Do you? Or do you just feel guilty? I want to marry you, she repeated. Not because I feel guilty, not because I'm trying to prove something, but because I finally understand what I've been running from. What's that? The possibility that I might actually be happy, that someone might actually choose me, that this might actually work. She stepped closer. I've been so busy protecting myself from another betrayal that I didn't see I was creating one, by not trusting you, by not giving you the benefit of the doubt. Alina, let me finish. Her voice shook. Terrified. I'm probably always going to be terrified, but I'm more terrified of losing you than I am of taking a risk. And I realized something today. What? You've been taking risks this whole time, proposing to someone who was broken, staying when I pushed you away, being patient when I gave you every reason not to be. She reached for his hand. It's my turn to take a risk, to choose you the way you've been choosing me. Rowan's expression cracked. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. He pulled her close, and she felt the tension drain from him. I love you, he said against her hair, and I need you to know, the estate, the will, none of it matters. If it all disappeared tomorrow, I'd still choose you. I know, she whispered. I know that now. They stood there in the quiet of the stables, holding each other, and Alina felt something shift inside her. Not fear dissolving, not doubt vanishing, but something stronger rising beneath it. Choice. She was choosing this. choosing him, choosing to believe in something that terrified her. And that, she realized, was the bravest thing she'd ever done. The wedding was back on. The announcement went out the next day. Society buzzed, people whispered, but Alina didn't care anymore. She had 2 days to prepare. Clara threw herself into final arrangements with an almost manic energy. We need to confirm with the florist and the caterer and Clara, breathe. I'm breathing. I'm so relieved you're going through with this. So am I. Margaret appeared in the doorway. Alina, a word. Clara shot her a look, then left. Margaret closed the door. I want to apologize. Alina blinked. For what? For the things I said. About you looking for a reason to run. I was angry, and She stopped. I was wrong. You weren't, though. You were right. Perhaps, but I should have said it with more compassion. Margaret sat. I've spent the last 4 years watching you rebuild yourself, and I've been so focused on making sure you survived that I forgot to make sure you lived. Alina's throat tightened. I'm proud of you, Margaret continued, for fighting, for choosing him, for refusing to let fear win. It was the closest thing to affection her mother had shown in years. Thank you, Alina whispered. Margaret stood. Now, let's make sure this wedding actually happens. The night before the wedding, Alina couldn't sleep. Not from fear this time, from anticipation. She kept replaying the conversation with Rowan in the stables, the way he'd held her, the certainty in his voice when he said, I'd still choose you. She believed him, and that felt like a miracle. A knock at the door startled her. Come in. Clara entered, carrying something wrapped in cloth. I have something for you. What is it? Clara unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a veil, delicate, beautiful, clearly old. It was Mother's, Clara said, and her mother's before that. She wanted you to have it. Alina touched the lace gently. I can't. You can, and you should. Clara smiled. You're not the abandoned bride anymore, Alina. You're the woman who refused to stay broken, who fought her way back, who chose love even when it terrified her. That deserves to be honored. Alina pulled her sister into a hug. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me. Never. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and bright. Alina dressed slowly, hands surprisingly steady. Clara helped with the veil, fingers careful. You look beautiful, Clara said. Alina looked at herself in the mirror. She did look different. Not fragile, not broken, strong. Ready? Margaret asked from the doorway. Yes, Alina said, and she meant it. The carriage ride to the chapel felt surreal. The same chapel, the same route, but everything was different. She wasn't being led to a future that would collapse. She was walking into one she'd chosen. When they arrived, Alina stood outside for a moment, staring at the doors. Second thoughts? Margaret asked quietly. No, just remembering. And realizing I'm not the same person I was then. Margaret squeezed her hand. No, you're not. They walked inside together. The chapel was full, more people than last time somehow. Friends, family, acquaintances. And at the altar, waiting, Rowan. He was already there, already watching, and when their eyes met, he smiled. Not a polite smile, not a formal one, a real smile. Full of certainty and warmth and everything Alina had been too afraid to hope for. She walked down the aisle, head high, no hesitation. And this time, when she reached the altar, she wasn't alone. The ceremony passed in a blur. Vows exchanged, rings placed, words spoken that bound them together. And when the minister said, "You may kiss your bride," Rowan did. It wasn't tentative, wasn't careful. It was a promise. Afterward, as they walked back down the aisle together, Alina caught sight of faces in the crowd. Some looked happy, some looked surprised, a few looked skeptical. And Vivian, standing near the back, looked furious. Alina met her eyes and smiled. Not gloating, not victorious, just free. Outside in the bright afternoon sun, Rowan pulled her aside. How do you feel? He asked. Alina thought about it, really thought. Terrified, she said honestly. He laughed. Still, always, but she looked up at him. Also happy. For the first time in years, I'm actually happy. Good, Rowan said, because I plan to make sure you stay that way. You can't promise that. No, but I can try. He kissed her again, and Alina let herself sink into it, into the certainty, into the choice. She'd spent 4 years believing she was finished, but standing there, married to a man who'd proven himself again and again, surrounded by people who'd watched her rebuild, she realized she wasn't finished at all. She was just beginning. But the reception was held at the Ashcroft estate. Food, music, dancing, everything proper and elegant and exactly what society expected. But Alina barely noticed. She was too busy watching Rowan, the way he moved through the crowd with easy confidence, the way he kept finding excuses to touch her hand, her waist, her shoulder, the way he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. At one point, an older gentleman approached, Lord something or other, Alina couldn't remember. Congratulations, Your Grace, he said to Rowan. Then to Alina. And to you, Duchess. Duchess. The title still felt strange, but she was learning to wear it. As the evening wore on, Alina found herself standing on the terrace, looking out over the gardens. Clara joined her. Hiding? Observing. Liar. Clara leaned against the railing. How does it feel? Strange. Good. Terrifying. So, normal for you. Alina laughed. I suppose. I'm proud of you, you know. You've said that. I'll keep saying it until you believe it. Alina looked at her sister. I do believe it. Finally. Clara smiled. Good. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Clara said, Do you think you'll be happy? I think I'll try to be. That's all anyone can do, right? Right. Inside, the music swelled. Rowan appeared in the doorway. There you are. They're asking for the first dance. Alina took his offered hand. Let's not keep them waiting. They moved back inside to the center of the room and began to dance. And as they moved together, surrounded by people who'd doubted her, who'd pitied her, who'd written her off, Alina realized something. She'd won. Not against them. Against herself. Against the fear. The doubt. The voice that said she wasn't enough. She'd faced it all. And she'd chosen to move forward anyway. That was victory. That was victory. But a victory, Alina learned in the months that followed, wasn't a destination. It was something you had to keep choosing. The first test came 3 weeks after the wedding. Rowan's father died quietly in his sleep. No drama, no final speeches, just the slow, inevitable end of a life lived fully. The funeral was massive. Dignitaries, distant relatives, business associates, everyone who'd ever had dealings with the Ashcroft family came to pay respects, and they all watched Alina carefully, measuring her, waiting for her to make a mistake. She stood beside Rowan throughout the service, straight-backed, composed. But inside, she was drowning. Not from grief, she'd barely known the old Duke. From pressure. From the weight of every eye on her, every whisper about whether she was worthy of the title she now held. Duchess Alina Ashcroft. It still didn't feel real. After the burial, they returned to the estate for the reception. Rowan was pulled in a dozen directions. Lawyers, estate managers, family members, all demanding his attention. Alina found herself alone in a room full of strangers, nursing a glass of wine and trying not to look as lost as she felt. Quite a turnout. She turned. Vivienne stood there, dressed in black, expression unreadable. Yes, Alina said carefully. Must be overwhelming. All these people, all these expectations. I'm managing. Are you? Vivienne stepped closer. Because from where I'm standing, you look like you're about to bolt. Alina's grip tightened on the glass. I'm not going anywhere. We'll see. Vivienne smiled that sharp smile. Being a duchess isn't like running a small estate, you know. It's politics, strategy, knowing who to trust and who to use. You'll be eaten alive. Then I'll learn. Will you? Or will you just keep pretending until it all falls apart? Alina met her eyes. You know what I've realized about you, Vivian? Do tell. You're not cruel because you're strong. You're cruel because you're terrified. Terrified that if people see past your performance, they'll realize you're not as important as you think you are. Vivian's expression hardened. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. I know you sent that letter because you couldn't stand seeing Rowan happy. I know you're here now trying to undermine me because you can't accept that he chose someone else. And I know. Alina set down her glass. I know that no matter what you do, it won't change anything. Because I'm not leaving, I'm not running, and I'm not giving you the satisfaction of watching me fail. For a moment, Vivian just stared at her. Then she turned and walked away without another word. Alina's hands were shaking, but she felt something like triumph. Small victories. That's what this was going to be. A series of small victories, one after another, until they added up to something real. The following weeks were brutal. Rowan was consumed with estate business, meetings, audits, legal matters. The old Duke's death had triggered a cascade of administrative nightmares, and Rowan bore the weight of all of it. Alina tried to help, but she was learning the hard way that being Duchess involved navigating an entirely different world. Social obligations she didn't understand, protocols she'd never been taught, people who smiled to her face and criticized her behind her back. One afternoon, she overheard two women talking in the hallway. Did you see her at the charity luncheon? She barely spoke. Well, what did you expect? She's not exactly bred for this. I heard the Duke only married her out of obligation. You know, with his father's will. Really? How tragic. She must know she's just a placeholder. Alina stood there, frozen, her chest tight. Placeholder. Was that what people thought? She wanted to storm in and confront them, wanted to scream that they were wrong, that Rowan loved her, that she wasn't just convenient. But what would that prove? That she was emotional? Unstable? Exactly what they expected? So she walked away. But the words followed her. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the conversation, the casual cruelty of it. By the time Rowan came to bed, she was staring at the ceiling, jaw tight. What's wrong? He asked. Nothing. Alina, I said nothing. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You're a terrible liar. Despite everything, she almost smiled. I heard some women talking today. About us. About why you married me. Rowan went still. What did they say? That you only did it because of your father's will. That I'm a placeholder. That's not true. I know that, but they don't. Who cares what they think? I do. She turned to look at him. I care because it reflects on you, on your judgment. And if people think I'm inadequate, let them think it. Rowan, I'm serious. Let them think whatever they want. You know the truth. I know the truth. That's all that matters. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, their opinions affect everything. Who we do business with, who accepts our invitations, how we're treated in society. Then we change society's opinion. How? By proving them wrong, every single day, until they have no choice but to see it. Alina wanted to believe him, but she was tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of proving herself. What if I can't? She whispered. Rowan pulled her close. Then we'll do it together. The turning point came 2 months later. A massive estate in the neighboring county was up for auction, seized from a family that had fallen into debt. Rowan wanted to acquire it, expand the Ashcroft holdings, but the negotiations were complicated. Multiple bidders, legal tangles, and the estate manager handling the auction was notoriously difficult. Alina offered to help. Rowan hesitated. It's a lot of pressure. I can handle it. I'm not questioning your ability. I'm questioning whether you want to deal with Harrison Reed. He's unpleasant? That's generous. Let me try. So she did. The first meeting with Reed was exactly as bad as Rowan had warned. The man was condescending, dismissive, and clearly didn't think a woman, especially one with Alina's history, had any business being involved. Duchess Ashcroft, he said, the title dripping with irony. I wasn't expecting the Duke to send his wife. He didn't send me. I came on my own. How? Progressive. Reed shuffled papers on his desk. Well, I'm afraid this auction is quite technical. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable if I reviewed the property records. The water rights are disputed, which is why the price is lower than market value. But the dispute is based on a surveying error from 1802. I have documentation proving the boundaries were incorrectly marked. Reed blinked. What? Alina set a folder on his desk. Here, the original survey notes, and a modern assessment correcting the error. If the Ashcroft estate acquires the property, we'll resolve the dispute within 6 months. That should be attractive to whoever's managing the liquidation. Reed opened the folder slowly, scanning the documents. His expression shifted from dismissive to surprised to grudgingly impressed. This is thorough. I do my research. Well, clearly. He set the folder down. I'll present this to the trustees, but I should warn you, there are other bidders. I'm aware, but none of them have done the work to solve the water rights problem, which means their bids are speculative. Ours isn't. Reed studied her for a long moment. You're not what I expected. Good. I'd hate to be predictable. She left the meeting feeling something she hadn't felt in months, confident. Not the fragile performative confidence she'd been faking. Real confidence. Earned. When she told Rowan about it that evening, he smiled. What did I tell you? That Reed was unpleasant? That you could handle it? I wasn't sure I could. I was. 2 weeks later, the Ashcroft estate won the auction. And suddenly, people started looking at Alina differently. Not with pity, not with skepticism, with something closer to respect. The shift was gradual but undeniable. Alina started receiving invitations, not as Rowan's wife, but as herself. Requests for her opinion on estate matters. Introductions to other women managing properties. Slowly, her reputation began to separate from the scandal that had defined her. She wasn't the abandoned bride anymore. She was the Duchess who knew her business. But not everyone was pleased. 6 months after Rowan's father died, Vivian made one last attempt to undermine her. It happened at a dinner party. 20 guests, all influential, all watching. Vivian stood and raised her glass. A toast, she said, smiling, to the Duke and Duchess Ashcroft. May their marriage continue to be as advantageous as it's proven so far. The implication was clear, cutting, designed to humiliate. The room went quiet. Alina felt Rowan tense beside her, but before he could respond, she stood. Thank you, Vivian, she said calmly. I appreciate the toast, and you're right, our marriage has been incredibly advantageous for both of us. Vivian's smile faltered. Rowan gained a partner who understands estate management, Alina continued, who works as hard as he does, who doesn't shy away from difficult negotiations or complex problems, and I gained a husband who sees me as an equal, who trusts my judgment, who supports my decisions, even when they're unconventional. She raised her own glass. So, yes, advantageous for both of us. I'd say that's what a good marriage should be. The room erupted in murmurs. A few people even applauded. Vivian's face went white, then red. She sat down abruptly, jaw tight. Alina sat too, heart pounding, but she kept her expression serene. Under the table, Rowan took her hand and squeezed. When they left the party later that night, he was quiet. What? Alina asked. Nothing. I'm just... He shook his head. I'm proud of you. For what? Not letting Vivian get under my skin? For standing up for yourself? For us? For refusing to let anyone define what we are? Alina looked out the carriage window at the passing darkness. I'm tired of being defensive, tired of apologizing for existing. If people don't like me, that's their problem, not mine. When did you decide that? Tonight, I think, when I realized I didn't care what Vivian thought anymore, or what anyone thought, really. Rowan was quiet. Then he said, You've changed. Is that bad? No, it's just different. You're harder now. In a good way. Alina considered that. I had to be. The world doesn't forgive softness. No, but it respects strength. Then I'll be strong. A year passed, then 2. Alina settled into her role as Duchess with a competence that surprised even her. She managed estates, negotiated contracts, built alliances. And slowly, the whispers stopped. People no longer mentioned Edmund's name when they saw her. They no longer brought up the scandal. Instead, they talked about her successes, her sharp mind, her ability to see solutions others missed. She'd rebuilt herself again, but this time, not alone, with Rowan beside her. Their marriage wasn't perfect. They argued, disagreed, had moments where they frustrated each other beyond words, but they never walked away. That was the difference. One afternoon, 3 years after the wedding, Alina was working in the study when Clara visited. "You look busy," Clara said. "Always." Alina set down her pen. "What brings you here?" "Can't a sister visit without a reason?" "You can, but you usually have one anyway." Clara smiled. "Fair." She sat across from Alina. "I wanted to tell you something." "What?" "I'm engaged." Alina's eyes widened. "What? To whom?" "Thomas Grayson. You met him last spring." "The quiet one who studies architecture?" "That's him." Alina stood and pulled her sister into a hug. "Clara, that's wonderful. When?" "Last week. We haven't announced yet, but I wanted you to know first." "I'm so happy for you." Clara pulled back, studying her face. "Are you really?" "Of course, why wouldn't I be?" "Because," Clara hesitated, "because I know it's hard for you sometimes, seeing other people's happiness." Alina thought about that. A few years ago, she would have felt the pang of envy, the reminder of everything she'd lost. But now, "I'm not jealous," she said honestly. "I'm just happy for you, that's all." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "You've come so far." "So have we all." They sat together for a while talking about wedding plans and futures and all the small, happy details that filled ordinary lives. And Alina realized something. She was ordinary now, not in a diminished way, but in the way that meant she'd finally stopped being defined by tragedy. She was just herself, and that was enough. 4 years after the wedding that almost didn't happen, Alina stood in the same chapel. Not for herself this time. For a young woman named Elena, daughter of a merchant family, recently jilted by her fiancé, devastated and convinced her life was over. Margaret had suggested Alina speak to her. "She reminds me of you," her mother had said, 4 years ago. So Alina had come. Elena sat in a pew near the back, eyes red, hands trembling. "Miss Elena?" Alina said gently. The girl looked up. Recognition flickered. "Duchess Ashcroft." "Just Alina is fine." Why are you here?" Alina sat beside her. "Because I heard what happened, and I thought you might want to talk." "There's nothing to talk about. My life is ruined." "Is it?" "Of course it is. Everyone knows what he did. Everyone's talking about it. I can't show my face anywhere." Alina was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Can I tell you something?" Elena nodded. 4 years ago, I stood at this altar, waiting for a man who never came, in front of 200 people. And afterward, I thought exactly what you're thinking now, that my life was over, that I'd never recover, that everyone would always see me as the woman who wasn't enough." Elena's eyes widened. "I remember hearing about that." "I'm sure you do. The whole county heard about it." Alina looked around the chapel. "For a long time, I let that define me. I hid. I convinced myself I'd never be happy again, that I didn't deserve it. But you married the Duke." "Yes, but not because he rescued me, because I learned something." "What?" "That what other people think doesn't matter as much as what you think about yourself. That you can rebuild from anything if you're willing to do the work. And that the worst thing that ever happened to you doesn't have to be the last thing." Elena's chin trembled. "I don't know if I can." "You can. It won't be easy. People will talk. They'll judge. They'll expect you to break." Alina reached over and took her hand. "But you don't have to give them that satisfaction. You can choose something else." "Like what?" "Like strength, like resilience, like refusing to let one terrible moment define the rest of your life. Elena was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "How long did it take? Before you felt normal again?" Elena considered the question honestly. "I'm not sure I ever felt normal again. But I felt something better. I felt like I'd earned my place, like I'd fought for it and won. And it was worth it? Every single day." Elena wiped her eyes. "Thank you for coming." "Of course." As Elena left the chapel, she looked back once at the altar where she'd stood alone all those years ago. It didn't hurt anymore. It was just a place, a moment, part of her story, but not the whole thing. She climbed into the carriage where Rowan waited. "How is she?" he asked. "Broken, but she'll survive." "Did you tell her that?" "In so many words." Rowan took her hand. "You know what I've always admired about you?" "What?" "You don't lie about how hard it is. You don't pretend it's easy to come back from something like that. But you also don't tell people it's impossible." "Because it's not." "No, it's not." They rode in comfortable silence for a while. Then Elena said, "Do you ever think about that day, the first wedding?" "Sometimes." "Do you wish it had been different?" Rowan was quiet. Then he said, "No." "No?" "If it had been different, you wouldn't be who you are, and I wouldn't love you the way I do." Elena's throat tightened. "That's very poetic." "I'm being serious." "I know." She leaned against him. "I love you too." "I know." They rode back to the estate as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. And Elena thought about everything that had brought her here. The pain, the rebuilding, the fear, the choice to trust again. It hadn't been smooth, hadn't been perfect, but it had been worth it. Years later, when people asked Elena about her story, she never sugarcoated it. She told them about the chapel, about standing there alone, about the months of shame and isolation that followed. But she also told them about the choice she'd made, to rebuild, to fight, to refuse to let one moment of betrayal destroy everything. The hardest part, she'd say, wasn't surviving the betrayal. It was learning to trust again, to believe I deserved happiness, to accept that not everyone would leave, and when people asked if she'd forgiven Edmund, she'd smile slightly. "I don't waste energy on him anymore. Forgiveness, anger, it all requires caring, and I stopped caring a long time ago. He's just a footnote now, not the whole story." She became known, over time, not as the abandoned bride, but as the duchess who'd built something from nothing, who advised other women on estate management, who spoke honestly about hardship without making herself a victim. She had children eventually, 2 daughters who grew up watching their mother navigate the world with competence and grace, who learned from her example that strength wasn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. And when her eldest daughter asked her once, "Were you ever scared, Mother?" Elena answered honestly, "Every single day, but I did it anyway." Why? Because staying scared would have meant staying small, and I wanted more than that. On their 10th anniversary, Rowan took Elena back to the chapel. She was surprised when the carriage stopped. "Why are we here?" "Because I wanted to show you something." He led her inside. The chapel was empty, quiet, exactly as it had been a decade ago. "Rowan, what?" "I want you to walk that aisle again." Elena stared at him. "What?" "I want you to walk it, the way you did then, but this time I'll be waiting." Her eyes burned. "Why?" "Because I want you to see the difference between walking toward nothing and walking toward something real." She wanted to argue, wanted to say it was unnecessary, dramatic, too much. But she didn't. Because she understood what he was offering: closure, reclamation, proof. So she walked, slowly, deliberately, down the same aisle she'd walked alone all those years ago. And this time, Rowan stood at the altar, waiting, steady. When she reached him, he took her hands. "You're not alone anymore," he said quietly. "I know. You're not the abandoned bride." "I know that too." "Then what are you?" Elena thought about it, about everything she'd been, everything she'd become. I'm the woman who refused to stay broken, she said finally. I'm the woman who rebuilt herself, who took the worst thing that ever happened to her and turned it into strength, who chose to trust again even when it terrified her. Rowan smiled. Yes, that's exactly who you are. He kissed her then, in the same spot where she'd once stood humiliated and alone. And Alina felt something inside her finally, completely, heal. Not because the past had been erased, it hadn't, but because she'd proven to herself, to the world, to everyone who doubted her, that the past didn't get to decide the future. She did, and she'd chosen well. Outside, 20 years after the wedding that didn't happen, Duchess Alina Ashcroft stood at a gathering of estate managers and business leaders. She was older now. Gray threaded through her hair, lines marked her face, earned from years of laughter, worry, hard work. But she stood tall, confident, unapologetic. A young woman approached her afterward, nervous, hopeful. Duchess Ashcroft, I'm sorry to bother you, but I heard your story about what happened before you married the Duke, and I wanted to say thank you. Alina smiled gently. For what? For showing that it's possible to come back from something like that. I went through something similar last year, and I thought I'd never recover, but hearing about you, it gave me hope. Alina took the woman's hand. What's your name? Catherine. Catherine, can I tell you something? Of course. Recovery isn't a straight line. Some days will be harder than others. Some days you'll feel like you're back at the beginning. But that doesn't mean you're failing. It just means you're human. How do you get through those days? By remembering that you've survived everything so far. And by choosing every single morning to keep going, not because it's easy, but because you're worth it. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. You're going to be fine, Alina said. Better than fine, I promise. As Catherine walked away, Rowan appeared beside Alina. Still giving advice? He asked. Someone has to. You know what I think? What? I think you've become exactly who you were always meant to be. Alina looked at him, the man who'd waited when she'd run, who'd believed in her when she hadn't believed in herself, who'd stood beside her through every doubt and fear and hard-won victory. And who's that? She asked. Someone who turns pain into purpose. Someone who refuses to let the world break her. Someone who proves every single day that devastation doesn't get the last word. Alina smiled. That's very poetic again. I know. They stood together, watching the sun set over the estate they'd built together, and Alina felt something she'd once thought impossible. Peace. Not the fragile kind, not the kind that required everything to be perfect, but the deep-earned kind. The kind that came from knowing she'd fought for this life and won. She'd been the abandoned bride once, but she wasn't that anymore. She was so much more. And that, finally, completely, was enough.